So, folks, we have to talk about what the hell is going on over at TYT. Because for a long time, I have kind of held off on talking about, what is going on over there. I don't want to use my precious time on this earth just paying attention to what is happening on the Young Turks. But unfortunately, it is still one of the largest left-leaning YouTube channels out there. And so we gotta check in from time to time, and boy howdy, did a clip of this pass my attention today, and I just said, "Oh no, no! We have to talk about this." And so this segment is called "The Feud on the Right Wing is Getting Brutal," and I, for one, I'm here for it. I'm here for the conservative infighting. I think that's good. I think us watching as the right destroys itself, cannibalizes itself, is good. But I gotta back up for a minute, because for a while I felt kind of like semi-responsible for at least the exposure of folks in my community to the Young Turks, because I had Anna Kasparian on my show, a couple of years ago, and she shouted out the channel on the Young Turks, and I was pretty proud of it back then. And that has consistently gone downhill since. And it's I gotta be honest, it still shocks me, right? It still shocks me. And I decided after covering that dissent for a while that I was just gonna, it's time for me to move on. We can't just continually pay attention to this. But I gotta say, this is a new low. And I gotta be honest. I'm having trouble parsing this. So here we go. Jumping right into this.
He lied to Megyn Kelly's face, and definitely not a good idea to lie to her face and try to humiliate her on her own tour. I personally would have strongly advised against it, okay? If somebody said, is this a good idea? I would have said, you know what? Let's maybe not do that. But it happened. And it's important to stress here that this was not just a simple mistake that Ben made.
I think that what Candace Owens is doing right now is evil. It is evil what she is doing right now.
My position is it's really none of my business. And
why is it? But I have a question. Why is it none of your business? I mean, you comment on these things for a living.
I'm not mother of the internet.
No, but if this were on the left and somebody were accusing Charlie Kirk of his wife having murdered him, I assume that you would be talking about it.
Is that what Candace is accusing Erica of?
Yes.
There is quite a bit of infighting happening in what is considered to be the American right, right-wing pundits, conservatives, and it really has to do with disagreements about Israel. Let's just keep it real. There is the half of the Republican base that wants to defend and support anything and everything Israel does. And then there's the younger crowd that's a little more savvy to the reality that the U.S. alliance to Israel has been detrimental to the American people.
Now, I just want to pause right here and to point out that these younger conservatives that Anna Kasparian is talking about here, they're the gripers. By and large, there are two factions currently at play among the Conservative Party, and it is kind of the traditional conservative evangelical faction that wants to bring about an apocalyptic prophecy in Israel by propping up the government of Israel and basically summon the second coming of Christ. The other faction, with Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson these days, is a faction that does criticize Israel, but they are not criticizing Israel because they care about Palestinians. They're not criticizing Israel because they oppose ethno-states. They're not criticizing Israel because Israel denies human rights to different groups of people within their areas of control. They criticize Israel and actively oppose Israel because they hate Jewish people. Like, they are just straight up anti-Semites. And so it's, I believe, disingenuous here to say, like, oh, yeah, no, there's the faction that is just critical of Israel and the faction that supports Israel. But because it's a little bit more complicated than that, and the critical faction that is being talked about here, represented by Candace Owens. Candace Owens hung out with a guy who was calling for, like, DEFCON 3 on all Jewish people. Like, Candace Owens got a huge amount of prominence by hanging out with self-avowed Nazi Ye. She attached herself to his campaign for president, such as it was, and, like, milked him for all of the press that he was worth. And, like, let me put it this way. Kanye's position wasn't based on an in-depth critique of Israel and foreign policy. It was just that he hates Jewish people. And so the idea that Candace Owens is coming at this from a position of just a good faith criticism of Israel, like, she's currently being sued by the wife of the French head of state because she's been lying about her being trans. Candace Owens' entire thing right now is that, like,
in fairness, Kanye did apologize recently.
No. You can't pull that. You can't pull, like, oh no, he apologized. Dude went on a, like, multi-month long campaign bender talking about how he hates the Jews. Like, yeah, okay, oh yeah, he apologized. Yeah, give it another week. Give it another week. Like, I'm sorry, but this guy's going around saying, literally, I love Hitler, and I'm a Nazi, and Candace Owens loves associating with him. So, like, I'm sorry. Yeah, and, well, yeah, Kanye's mentally ill, for sure, but so are a lot of Nazis. It doesn't mean that his Nazism is insincere. We'll see. But Candace Owens was not associating with him post-apology. She was taking advantage of him while he was off his meds and posting all kinds of conspiratorial nonsense. The idea that Candace Owens is operating in any kind of good faith, anything that remotely appears like good faith, is insane. It's just divorced from reality. Kanye has medication for his mental illness but refuses to take them. Look, I gotta be honest, I don't care, because he's one of the most prominent musicians on the planet, and he's going around spreading stuff like I love Hitler. Like, I'm sorry, that the rest of that story is just kind of minutia to the point I'm trying to make here. Like, yeah, we can have a whole discussion about mental health crises and fame and celebrity and whatnot, but that's not what I'm talking about here.
I'm not on the right, but I certainly agree with the latter. Candace Owens.
Yeah, I don't buy his most recent apology, because he's apologized a lot of times for a lot of things, and he keeps doing unhinged shit.
To her credit, also agrees that the U.S. relationship with Israel is detrimental, and that has made her a target. She got fired from the Daily Wire as a result of her commentary about Israel, and things have only gotten more spicy since then. Now, Megyn Kelly is currently doing a tour.
Is it valid to say he's a piece of shit, but he needs help? Sure, but also, like, I don't know how to put this, but, like, there are a lot of people who do awful things that also need extensive mental health help. You know, there are people who, like, abuse their kids, who need extensive mental health help. It doesn't excuse the abuse. It doesn't excuse the bigoted positions that they take. And, like, yeah, he clearly needs help, but, like, I'm not here to talk about how he needs help. I'm here to talk about someone associating with him while he's clearly in crisis and while he is talking about how he hates the Jews.
in front of live audiences. And she's had various figures on her, tour to speak about various issues, some of them spicy, some of them just the typical policy related stuff. And recently she had Ben Shapiro on. Now, what was interesting is for the first time in my life, I'm watching Candace Owens's show pretty much on a regular basis. I think, she says things that I don't agree with, that's for sure. But I really appreciate what she has to say about what's been going down in Gaza. I agree with her on Israel for sure. And I find what she has to say about
saying Kanye isn't a good point of attack right now. Did not mean to start this. He's still bad.
Oh, I'm just saying, when we're talking about Candace Owens, she literally was one of the people to platform him while he was talking about being an open Nazi. All right? So when we're talking about Candace Owens and her past affiliations and whether or not she's a good faith interlocutor when it comes to talking about, Israel, taking that into account means something when talking about Candace Owens. This isn't oh man, everyone needs to get on board the Kanye hate wagon. I don't care about that because that's not what I'm talking about.
Investigation into the assassination of Charlie Kirk, both fascinating, and I think what she's doing is justified because our authorities, our FBI, has, in my opinion, bungled this investigation.
So this is what got me out of everything else here, right? I saw this clip and I was just like, are you kidding me? You're going to take Candace Owens' investigation at its word when what she's essentially claiming is that the guy who shot Charlie Kirk wasn't actually the guy who shot Charlie Kirk, and that Turning Point USA actually helped to assassinate Charlie Kirk. That's by and large what Candace Owens is alleging here, by the way. Turning Point USA had beef with Charlie Kirk because Charlie Kirk was going to flip on the topic of Israel. And so the Turning Point USA organization assassinated Charlie Kirk. And Anna Kasparian here is saying, well, I think the FBI has kind of bungled the investigation, so I guess we should believe Candace Owens. And that's insane. Which, again, we need to go back and look at Candace Owens' credibility. She's platforming a guy who's talking about being an open Nazi and running cover for him. And also, is currently being sued by the First Lady of France because Candace Owens has run a multi-year long harassment campaign elevating conspiracy theories that the First Lady of France is a secret trans woman and that the entire world global community is in on covering up for this secret trans woman. And so we're supposed to just, and by the way, she's basing that all off of a website that looks like it came off of GeoCities from 3 decades ago and written by a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist in France. I just have to say, if you're at all trying to say Candace Owens should be taken seriously, you have a lot of hurdles to overcome. You have a lot of I don't know. I'm going to need to see a lot of evidence here. And that evidence doesn't exist as far as I'm aware. Yeah, Brigitte Macron.
And there are all sorts of weird inconsistencies that I personally would like answers to.
Okay, but what if she was? There's nothing wrong with trans women. That's the thing, right? It shouldn't matter if Brigitte Macron is a trans woman. But the thing is, what these conspiracy theorists allege is that that she is a secret trans woman and that the entire government is actually covering it up. And again, this is how conspiracy theories work, right? So they make this allegation and then they start saying, well, and everyone is in on it. And who is everyone? oh, well, the world government and the globalists and the financiers. And you start to see kind of the direction the conspiracy theory goes if you are at all familiar with dog whistles, specifically anti-Semitic dog whistles. And the thing is, this very much frustrates me as someone on the left because there's a practically endless list of things to criticize Israel for, but not really like Brigitte Macron being like a trans woman. That's not really a thing that is applicable to Israel's foreign policy or like even their Mossad operations. But again, to claim that Charlie Kirk was assassinated by a secret Mossad operation operating through this lone wolf guy who clumsily assassinated Charlie Kirk, it's bizarre. And yeah, like part of the allegation here is that Erica Kirk is in on the assassination. Anna Kasparian, a host of an ostensibly left-wing show, saying, no, guys, Candace Owens is onto something here, or maybe onto something here, is, I gotta say, beyond the pale insane. Like, this is some unadulterated horse shit, and it is genuinely a new low for the organization.
Now, some people are uncomfortable with Candace Owens doing her own investigation.
Yeah, maybe because, all of her other investigations are about how the moon landing is fake and world leaders' wives are secret trans ladies. And, a bunch of absolute horse shit predicated on nonsense. Yeah, maybe that's the case.
Acting as a sleuth. But the reason why I tell you guys I watch her podcast regularly is because I know what she has claimed and what she hasn't claimed. With that in mind, let's take a look at what Ben Shapiro had to say about Candace Owens.
Why dismiss this so quick? There's a lot of bizarreness around Kirk's death. None of the bizarreness around Charlie Kirk's assassination is at all inexplicable to me because honestly, the only weirdness that I see is not in the actual assassination. It's in the FBI's handling of this. And that suddenly becomes a lot more sensible when you realize that the FBI is currently being headed by a fucking podcast host. Like, oh, did Kash Patel fuck up an investigation? Oh, wow. You Kash Patel? That guy? I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Kash Patel, the author of the hit children's book, The Plot Against the King? You mean this Kash Patel? This guy would bungle an investigation? Wow. Crazy. I don't know. Dude couldn't even write a children's book. Like, what makes you think he would do a good investigation? So, Kash Patel, the podcastier? So, all I just have to say is, like, none of this rings like conspiracy theory to me. What this rings like to me is absolute incompetence. Because when I look at the actual facts of the assassination, none of that seems weird to me. None of that seems weird. Dude left poorly concealed the assassination weapon in a nearby grove of trees, tried to get it back later, and then got arrested. That's not. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's not a mystery to me. Dude, a kid was identified by like his own family members. Not a mystery to me. Isn't the Kash Patel book series on The Plot Against the King up to 3 so far? I guess so. The priest selling him out tracks too, right? I don't know. It's not. I find it all so much more explicable to the general incompetence and lack of talent with what's left of the FBI. Largely, again, you have to remember, the Trump administration for the past year has been dedicated to the mission of gutting any competent people within their ranks. And I don't know, the idea that there's no one left who's capable of actually vigorously investigating a case like this doesn't strike me as bizarre, considering.
Kash Patel was issued a rare order on ineptitude by a federal judge. The only logical choice to head the FBI, Natch.
Hell yeah.
As he was on one of her, live speaking tour events.
I think you and I differ on our angle with regard to, for example, Candace Owens. I think that what Candace Owens is doing right now is evil. It is evil. What you
like, just keep in mind, like the guy who assassinated Charlie Kirk, or allegedly assassinated Charlie Kirk, was identified by his own grandfather because the grandfather recognized the gun. Like, it's a distinctive gun owned by the grandfather.
Doing right now, okay, and I say that again.
But what?
Because
like I don't opine on whether it's evil or not, but my position is it's really none of my business. And
why is it? But I have a question. Why is it none of your business? I mean, you comment on these things for a living.
I'm not mother of the internet.
No, but if this were on the left, and so
see this, we're seeing in real time here in this clip the conservative coalition fall apart.
Somebody were accusing Charlie Kirk of his
father, not grandfather. No, but it was his grandfather's gun, and I think his grandfather was asking the father where the gun was.
Wife having murdered him, I assume that you would be talking about it.
Is that what Candace is accusing Erica of?
Yes.
Of murdering her own husband?
Now, Megyn Kelly, from what I gather, is not watching Candace's show. Certainly not as regularly as I have recently, right? So she's confronted with something that I imagine she would find appalling, but it's a lie. Candace Owens has never said anything about Charlie Kirk's wife being involved in assassinating her own husband. She hasn't even alluded to it. In fact, her audience, if you read the comments, a lot of people in her audience are like urging her to look into Erica Kirk. But all I've seen her do is defend Erica Kirk. So that's just something to keep in mind. Like, a lie like that, whatever you might feel about Candace Owens, you have to be fair. And a lie like that is pretty freaking gross. And it's especially gross to do it in real time to someone who's supposed to be your...
Look, folks are like, well, it was an off-the-shelf rifle. No, it was a World War I era rifle, a Mauser Model 98, that the grandfather was specifically asking where it was because it was missing. Like, it's not... It wasn't just like, they bought it at the local hardware store. Yes, the Mauser was a German rifle, exactly. And it predates the 1968 laws after the assassination of John F. Kennedy.
Your friend, in order to get that individual to engage in a public condemnation of someone you don't like, Candace Owens.
Erica Kirk's behavior post-assassination is also bizarre to the point of trolling. I disagree. I think she's doing what she can to, keep the cash cow cowing and, doing her bit. I don't know. Makes sense to me. She's being used by a lot of different powerful people to, headline the org. I don't think it's a big mystery.
I thought that was so below the belt and honestly a pretty scummy thing to do. Here's the second part of that exchange.
She's accusing TPUSA insiders and other members of the right wing, including Seth Dillon, of being involved in the murder of Charlie Kirk. Yes.
Okay. Like I said, I don't take in that content, which is an honest statement. I don't have time to watch Candace's show.
I believe you. I
do think that there's a weird amount of chemistry between Erica Kirk and JD Vance. I will say that, and I have said that, and I will continue to say that.
But the point that I'm making is that when
what I
that friendship should not, in our business, I think it's important. Listen, friendship should not trump.
We don't even know each other.
I understand, but even with Tucker, friendship should not trump our manifest requirement to speak out when people do and say things that are both detrimental to conservatism and morally wrong.
Oh yeah, look, I'm not saying the Kirks are good people, Blueberry Bumblebees, but I am saying, like, if you are married to the person who's in charge of Turning Point USA, you're probably going to be a specific kind of freak. And I guess I'm not surprised by her behavior.
So I think part of the reason why this moment triggered me in particular is because, and I want everyone who's watching this to know this about me, just in case something comes up in the future where people try to egg me on or encourage me to denounce someone that's close to me or denounce someone I work with, don't come at me and urge me to condemn people to prove my virtue. You get what I'm saying? Like, I find that so utterly disgusting and gross. And it's happened to me in that, people were mad at me over an opinion that I have. And then
what was that opinion? Like, again, this is a way you phrase something when you are trying to dodge the actual, conversation, right? When you are saying, I'm sorry, all kinds of shitty people hide behind that kind of dodge. Yeah, people are mad at me because of some opinion I have. And you're like, okay, what's the opinion? And it's like, well, I think America should be an ethno state of white people. That's, people, okay, yeah, I understand why people are mad at you for having that opinion. Yeah. What the opinion is kind of matters, because if the opinion is you like Cinnamon Toast Crunch instead of, Lucky Charms, okay, that's fine to have that opinion. But if your opinion is the Holocaust didn't happen, that's maybe a bigger deal for some people. That might be a bigger deal.
The little mob will reach out to John Idarola or whoever I'm associated with, and demand a public condemnation of.
Also, I don't really care if she does a public condemnation or not, So I don't do that. Don't try and get some kind of condemnation out of this woman, because you're not going to get it. But I am also just going to say, people can still criticize you. If you're hanging out with a Nazi, people should be able to criticize you for doing that. If you're associating your positions with that of a Nazi or that of an anti-Semite, people can criticize you for that. The same way if we found out that after Cenk Uygur debated David Duke years ago, that he went hung out with David Duke and just shot the shit for 5 hours and they had a lovely time, that might be a cause for some concern from folks. Just saying.
Of my opinion and what I had to say. And I just want to be very clear about how I feel about individuals who give into that pressure. It's bitch behavior. People are allowed to.
Wait, I didn't know about that. No, it was a hypothetical. Cenk didn't do that. I'm saying if Cenk did, it would be a pretty, you can criticize someone for that, actually.
Have their own opinions. And
sorry if I made it seem like he did do that. As far as I know, he didn't. But I think it would change our perception of him to know that if he did, right? As a hypothetical.
If they decide on their own that someone else has said something, a friend of mine, a colleague of mine has engaged in commentary that I disagree with, if they themselves decide on their own to respond to it or comment on it, that's totally fine. That is 100% okay. But giving into a mob that's do you condemn? Do you condemn? Do you condemn? You need to condemn. Do you condemn? They're the worst people. I can't stand them. And I think even less of the individuals who give in to that pressure. Just keeping it real. Now, Meg.
Why is this the main thrust of your response here? Instead of assessing whether or not Candace Owens is a credible person to believe in this instance, which she's not.
Megyn Kelly didn't give into that pressure and later decided to fact check the claims that Ben Shapiro made. Let's take a look.
He said that Candace has been claiming Erica Kirk was behind the murder of Charlie, which I had not heard, and I was taken aback because that seems like something I would have heard. It's so crazy, and I have since learned it is not true. Candace has not made that claim, and in fact, I've now seen several clips of Candace specifically defending Erica Kirk and saying she would never make a claim like that about Erica, and that she is open-minded to other people at Turning Point. That's obvious. She's been making that point. I had heard that point. But she's specifically been defending Erica Kirk. And she's been saying she does not think that of Erica. And in fact, if you read her comments, she's under pressure to make comments about Erica. And so far, what I've seen, she hasn't.
So the facts matter. You know, you might think what Candace is doing is wrong, but you have to at least be accurate about what Candace is actually saying. You can't, smear her as someone who's going around pointing fingers at Erica Kirk when that's not what's actually happening. Now, just based on what she has said, she does seem to think that there are people within the Turning Point organization who are part of some sort of cover-up.
I mean, Candace Owens did literally get on Twitter like a month ago and said, Charlie, and I'm going to quote this, Charlie was betrayed by everyone. That's a direct quote. Talking about everyone around him betrayed Charlie Kirk. Crazy. I don't know. We're getting we're getting like news outlets. Here's a great example from just like earlier this week.
I learned that after UVU showed them multiple options inside and outside, UVU recommended to Turning Point that they not hold the event in the amphitheater because of safety reasons. Not a good idea because we can't shut this area down. It's not a good idea because there's no control here. We cannot control the traffic, the flow of traffic coming in and out of this amphitheater. But Turning Point insisted that that was where they wanted to have the event. It was because Turning Point insisted that that event was then held outside. Now, I can tell you, having done these events, that was the first thing among many that struck me as odd, is anybody can just walk into that's the whole point of safety, is you want to make sure that these students, you're checking tickets, you have security looking at them up and down. Do they look weird? Who are we supposed to keep eyes on? This guy's weird. Let's watch this guy because he's mumbling to himself. The whole point of that, the reason why you feel safe going to a Turning Point event is because not everybody can just walk up and sit down when they want to. Okay. You want to look people in the eye. Suddenly that didn't matter to them. Turning Point insisted on having the event outside, despite UVU saying they communicated to them, they did not think the outside was the best idea because of safety reasons. So my question now is, which specific Turning Point employees went down and picked that venue outside? I want to know.
Nobody wants
to know, and I will know, right? If you know, send me a tip, but we're going to find out. Okay. What's the events department looking like that does that? I know, by the way,
okay. So, Turning Point USA set up the event so that he could be assassinated. Or, the live streams that she's been doing saying Erica Kirk hid Charlie Kirk information.
Wait, what?
Erica Kirk is guilty of hiding information about Charlie Kirk, about him being safe in the home. Like, he didn't feel safe there. Like, yeah, it's, I don't know, like trying to say, oh, well, she never said that. Like, I'm sorry. Yes, she never looked into the camera and directly said, Erica Kirk killed Charlie. Like, yeah, Candace never did say that, but she has been implying that Erica Kirk wanted him harmed or dead or what have you, right? And I'm sorry. The idea here that, she hasn't been implying it is bizarre. Oh, she's not implying that Turning Point USA had him killed. She's not implying that Erica Kirk had anything to do with his death, except that she's constantly doing that.
And to be fair to her, she keeps providing, evidence in the form of text exchanges and that end up, bolstering or reinforcing the arguments that she's making.
Yeah, really compelling information, like, and I quote, I similarly, like I just said, had a vivid dream this weekend and Charlie came to me and he told me that he was betrayed. You don't have to believe that, but I do believe that. And it was the immediate sense I got, actually. And I don't know exactly who it is that betrayed him, but I also felt in the dream that it is soon going to be revealed. that is actually inevitable, and it's going to be revealed that there's nothing and no one that is going to stop the truth from coming out, and it's going to have international consequences. Well, you know, if some of her evidence is dream evidence, well, hi, well, you can take that to the bank, my friends.
But again, like, I just want all of you to consider, if someone close to you, and Charlie was close to her, was publicly assassinated like that, and you have Kash Patel as the head of the FBI, and from the very beginning, he's bungled all of it. Yeah, you're gonna.
Yeah, you know, Kash Patel, that guy who's well known for being very competent regarding investigations. That guy who's just, everyone's talking about how ultra competent Kash Patel is. Never would make a mistake. Never would goof him up. Kash Patel. You know, he's like Da Vinci. One hand writing in his notebooks and writing missives to his underlings. Other hand writing his next children's book. Just a real genius. How could he possibly mess it up unless it is a conspiracy?
You want to know the truth. You want justice for your friend. I would be beside myself if I were in Candace's shoes. And by the way, let's also acknowledge, like, she is grieving the loss of her friend. And when you're in the process of grieving, I remember after Michael Brooks died, for 6 months straight, I was probably the most unbearable person to work with. I was deeply depressed. And I remember Brett Ehrlich at one point, because I like snapped at him. I don't even remember what it was about. But Brett Ehrlich, to his credit, finally spoke up and he's like, you got to stop doing this. And that was when I realized I've been grieving. I have not processed it in a healthy way. So that's when I just decided I'm going to get help and I'm going to speak to a therapist and try to get myself out of this depressive state, because I'm taking this out on other people. You don't know how people handle this level of grief. And so, you know, I just think, even if you disagree with Candace Owens, have a little bit of grace, maybe a little bit. Now, with that in mind, Candace Owens.
Yeah, have a little bit of grace for the conspiracy theorist who is profiting off of her friend's death. Yeah. You know, you mean someone like Candace Owens would just go on the internet and lie about anyone for money and clout? Oh, that's crazy.
Is weighed in on this whole debacle as well. Let's take a look at what she has to say.
This was not just a simple mistake that Ben made, right? That's always a possibility, that Ben really thought maybe he's backstage and sees something on Twitter and some.
Yeah, no one could possibly come to the conclusion that you're a grifter and an extremely dishonest communicator. Yeah, no one could possibly come to that conclusion, honestly.
Somebody said, Candace just said that Erica Kirk murdered Charlie, and then he gets on stage and he repeats it. Maybe it's just an accident. Highly unlikely, but of course you have to run that plausibility. But we can now confirm that that certainly was not the case. This was not a simple mistake, because in the days following it, he didn't recant. He did not modify. He did not correct. He has a platform. He could have just come out and said, oh, you know, I got the details wrong. Nope. This was a premeditated and a post-meditated lie. Okay, intended to morally blackmail Meghan into a position to decide right now on the spot whether you are going to stand with evil Candace, who was accusing Erica Kirk of murdering her own husband. And that lie backfired gloriously.
I just also want to throw out there that, like, Turning Point USA vigorously rejects the claims that Candace Owens is making, and, like, I gotta be honest, Turning Point USA is a more honest communicator in this regard than perhaps Candace Owens is. Like, they're both extraordinarily dishonest, but I you know, I gotta be honest, the person here that's benefiting most from this is Candace Owens. And there's just nothing, like, I'm sorry, she's like bringing like, oh, well, I had dreams that Turning Point USA is guilty. Oh, hey, let's find out the names of people at Turning Point USA who had the event put outside, because, you know, they're probably in on it.
It did backfire, and it was a gross thing to do. It really was. this is how you lose. Like, I just think I think those on the right who are very concerned about criticism toward Israel, who want to do anything and everything possible to protect Israel, including smearing their own fellow Americans into silence, basically, so they stop criticizing Israel. Your actions are making things worse for your cause. So stop doing it. Just stop doing it. Don't lie. Don't pressure people during their own tour to condemn people that you don't like. Because guess what? The entire world sees it. The country sees it. They don't like it. So it's not.
Yeah, guys, it's not worth. Like, don't use your time to condemn people you don't like. Okay? Because people don't like it when you condemn folks you don't like. Don't do that. If you're thinking about saying you don't like Hitler, don't you say that, because people don't like hearing that you don't like Hitler. Like, what? Nah, actually, it's totally fine to criticize people you disagree with vehemently. That is, in fact, the good thing to do. Is Anna a right-winger now? I don't know. She's buying into Candace Owens conspiracy nonsense, so, maybe. Like, I can't think of any other plausible explanation for this.
Helping your cause, it is backfiring. I can't stand this kind of behavior. Just be honest. And if you don't like what Candace is doing, that's totally fine. Just say it. Share your point of view. But don't smear people. Don't lie about people. And more importantly, please stop with the guilt by association garbage.
Well, okay, but who you choose to associate with reflects something about who you are and what you value. Like, I'm sorry, if your bar of choice is the skinhead bar, like, that says something about you, even if you're not yourself a skinhead. It's not rocket science here. Like, your associations matter because they reflect in some way what you value and who you are.
Megyn Kelly will condemn Candace if she feels the need to do it. She's her own person. She has agency.
But you are also saying that's bad. So, like, it's bad to condemn people. It's bad to say, to ask, do you condemn so-and-so's actions in such and such a regard? It's fine to ask people how they feel about other people. That's not a bad thing, actually. I don't know, how you feel about other people's behavior is kind of like what we do on our shows. When we're talking about politics, we're talking about what people believe and what people do in politics. Sorry to be pedantic, please specify Nazi skinheads. I'm sorry, I did mean if you go to a Nazi skinhead bar. I'm aware that there are some skinheads that are not Nazis. I apologize to the not Nazi skinhead community. Rich, coming from a former left partisan who spent decades being as vitriolic as possible. Yeah. Thank you from the punk community. Yeah, there are punks that are like skinhead, like, that are not Nazis. For example, there is a group called SHARP, Skinheads Against Racial Prejudice. So, they are the anti-racist skinheads. So, just so you know, they do exist. But also, I think Sharps would probably give me the benefit of the doubt on that one. I think Sharps would probably be like, yeah, no, yeah, some of obviously the Nazis give a lot of skinheads a bad name. Wait, what? Really? Yeah. Here's their logo. They're big in the punk community. They also tend to be like just badass. Y'all are out here coming after bald people. I formally apologize to the bald community. A lot of things have been said tonight about the balds, and I am just here to say I do not support prejudice against the bald people. I've seen many Jason Statham movies. I have several bald friends, and I would just like to say you are all loved and appreciated, and I did not mean to cause any offense. All right. There you go, folks. Does Stephen Miller count? I'm not in a position to avow or disavow Stephen Miller for the bald community. I can't speak for the balds. I've been considering getting my honorary bald cap to induct myself as an honorary member of the community, but until that happens, I cannot say anything about Stephen Miller formally. I'll have to let the balds speak for themselves. Anyway, that segment was awful and it made me upset. And I hope you all enjoyed it. I appreciate all of y'all being here. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Consider dropping those subs, donos, memberships, super chats, etc. Help the stream because you guys are the ones making it possible, and I very much appreciate the ability to continue living and doing this show. And yeah, please consider supporting. I very much appreciate it. Stream over? Nah, stream just getting started, friendos. But this segment is over.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube and swishy streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, being flame more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat Jack.